Okay, this doesn't make sense. Why is the rain green? Is the world coming to an end? What did the Enchantress do to cause this? Okay, before we start panicking, let's think about this. I'm sure there's a perfectly logical, reasonable explanation for it. I just have to figure it out. Let's take a closer look at the level we see this green rain in and make determinations from there. Okay, so one of the levels where we see this rain is the level where Shovel Knight is approaching the Enchantress's castle, where we have our final one-on-one duel against Black Knight. The aesthetics and the music really set the tone for the stage. That's nice, but I'm really concerned about that rain. Let's see what happens when we make it to the end of the stage. If Shovel Knight survives, which he hopefully does, we're in the clear. I really hope he's okay, both for his physical safety and also because I talked about Acid Rain in Octopath Traveler 2. I can't go back to that concept just yet. Phew. Okay, well, we live to see the end of the stage, and so does Black Knight, so I think this is its poisoned rain. While those helmets are good at defending against physical blows, I have my doubts it'd be able to stop poisonous rains. So, if this rain isn't imbued with poison, what causes that rain to be green? Is rain always green in this universe? What would cause rain to be green like that? The obvious answer would probably be the Enchantress's magic, given that green, black, and pink really seem to be her colors. I gotta start calling her Glinda or Elpha at the rate we're going. But this is me we're talking about. I'm not satisfied with that answer. If this were Earth and we saw green rain, I wouldn't just write it off as magic. Let's talk about Shovel Knight and its green rain. Firstly, what causes rain to be different colors? Unfortunately, it's not the answer we all received in middle school where our eyes are interpreting color based on how light hits it. Okay, well, it sort of is, but rain isn't naturally green. It's usually clear, like water normally is. We only see rain that's a different color if the forming rain finds something to stick itself to in order to undergo condensation. Usually this is something like dust, pollen, salt, or various other materials that can make their way into the atmosphere. In meteorology, this something that the water vapor sticks itself to is called cloud condensation nuclei, or CCN for short. No, not one of the many companies that delivers the news, that's CNN. CCN is a lot less opinionated and rather refreshing. The reason why rain would be a different color is if said CCN itself is color. However, most CCNs will likely form rain that could be a hint of a different color but won't show unless it conglomerates with other particles imbued with that same color. Say that CCN was dust, and a lot of rain falls that was imbued with that dust. The puddle that forms could have some brown in it, but the entire puddle wouldn't be brown. Why not? Because dust isn't that bright of a color. Sure, it's usually a nice light brown color, but it's not a color such as neon pink, which really sticks out like a sore thumb. For rain to be a different color throughout the entire raindrop, not just a bit of it, it has to attach to a CCN of a bright color. There aren't exactly many bright colors found in the atmosphere, so we're going to have to do a bit of digging to figure this one out. If our rain in Shovel Knight is actually this green, we need to ask ourselves what sort of CCN would allow for rain to be this color when falling out of the sky. Given that our setting is in medieval times, we know that this isn't due to anything that would come out of a factory that's mass-producing something. I can't just say it's toxic waste. That hopefully does not exist in this time period, or some other toxin. One of the few naturally occurring CCNs out there that can sometimes be green is algae. Our best bet at Shovel Knight is probably green algae, which, if we manage to get particles of it into the air, can be carried by the wind and act like CCN for water vapor to attach to. Since green algae is bright in color, the rain itself would appear as green as water itself is clear and you can see through it normally. So where exactly does one find algae? In our world, you may have seen this in a pool if it hasn't been properly taken care of. Outside of a swimming pool, though, our most likely places to see algae are bodies of water such as oceans, lakes, and ponds. Alright, given this, we have to think about where we can find this in the game. There's not many large bodies of water, but I do have an idea for this one. The best place to have these algae in Shovel Knight is likely Triple Pond. Why? Well, let's take a closer look into how algae forms. To form algae, we need nutrients, such as phosphorus and nitrogen, to build up in water in amounts that exceed those of the naturally occurring nutrients. There can be many different sources for these nutrients, including things such as trees and grass clippings. Given that this pond is located in an area with at least a few trees, with leaves that certainly fall into the water below, it seems that this is our most likely candidate to form the nutrients needed to create algae. Given that this is a pond, assuming we believe the game, this is an ideal body of water for algae to form. Given that ponds are normally small, it can have more rapid buildup of these nutrients than a lake or the ocean. You might be noticing a slight problem. The location of Triple Pond is not exactly near the castle. In fact, looking at the world map, it's pretty far away, all things considered. So, how could this possibly be our source? Fear not, we have another resource at our disposal that can transport these particles to the Enchantress's castle to get that green rain. Triple Pond may not be right next to it, but it is close enough that the wind could easily transport algae particles to the castle. These particles could have gotten into the air from the Triple King simply jumping about in the water and doing his dance with the other fish. The other fish jumping around could also put these particles into the air. If all of their jumping around put enough of this algae into the atmosphere, they could be carried to the castle and used as CCN to form the green rain we see. Maybe we should tell them to take a bit of a chill pill? Anyways, I will note that Shovel Knight does have a wind component in this game. It comes in the form of the stage where we fight Propeller Knight. Does this debunk the entire theory, given that the wind speeds here are really quick? Would this stop water vapor from attaching to the CCN? I'm going to say no, but here's why. This stage moves Shovel Knight around by merely pushing on him. Wind has to be pretty strong to be able to do that. To move a person that's 100 pounds, or around 45 kilograms, you need wind speeds of up to 45 miles per hour, or 72 kilometers per hour, to occur. Well, the winds at this level must be really fast then, because while Shovel Knight himself could weigh at least 100 pounds, his armor is definitely adding some weight to be more than that. However, we gotta remember where we are in the atmosphere at this point in time. We're not exactly at ground level where these winds occur. The wind speeds up here are higher than they would be at ground level. Wind speeds increase with altitude, and since we're getting higher up, it makes sense that winds up here would be fast enough to push Shovel Knight around. I think that the wind would certainly move the CCN particles, and do so quickly, but not to the point where water vapor could not attach to them and form that green rain we've come to know and love. If anything, I think the wind could probably be helping our case since it allows the particles to get closer to the Enchantress's castle at a faster rate. As long as condensation and precipitation occur at or near the castle, it's entirely plausible that the rain would fall and it could even be the green color we want to see. So that's it! Problem solved! We did it! Hang on a minute, it can't be that simple. This is meteorology we're talking about. There's always some complication. This time, it comes in the form of CCN size. Now, CCNs are really small. Like, really, really small. So small that they can't be seen by the human eye. To give you an exact number, they typically measure 0.2 micrometers. If you're wondering what that is in meters, it's approximately 0.0000002. Yes, that's 6 zeros in front of the 2. We can't see that with the naked eye. Raindrops may be small, but not quite that small. We can see them when it's raining after all. So for the rain and Shovel Knight to be entirely green, not just a hint of it, the CCN itself would have to be much bigger than it already is, or the raindrop would have to be really small for the raindrop to be entirely green. Both options are extremely unlikely here. A CCN has to be light enough to get high enough in the atmosphere for a raindrop to form, which only works if it's small. The likelihood of us getting rain that's entirely green because it's small enough is pretty much zero. If it did happen, we would never see it. We could see this happen with dust in real life. Several months ago, a friend of mine was telling me that in their state, there was a rain and snow event that happened. And when all of it evaporated and melted, there was dust covering pretty much everything. In their words, the precipitation, both rain and snow, were their respective colors of clear and white. Yet when it dried and evaporated, they saw dust particles on everything. Why? Because the CCN was too small to change the entire color of the raindrop, but there was enough dust in the entire system to make it visible once it conglomerated and collected in one area. It just took evaporation to see it since it was a relatively brief event. The same thing would likely happen here at Shovel Knight. There's just no conceivable way for the rain to fall as green and then evaporate as green. It would have to fall as clear and then evaporate, thus then you'd see the green. I guess I'm stuck taking the easy way out on this one. That Enchantress! Thank goodness Shovel Knight stopped her wicked ways and saved Shield Knight. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more content like this, be sure to subscribe. I have more on the docket for you, and I'm super excited to share them. I will see you all in the next one. Have a good day, everybody.